Wow, 4.2 million Filipinos in the US. It always sounds so great, right? When you just think about the money, it sounds really amazing, but what a lot of people don't understand is that these people actually go overseas to work for many, many years to provide for the families back home. And we're rolling! What's up, Philippines? Welcome back to another reaction video with Nelly. So good to see you guys. I hope you are having an amazing day. Today I'm going to react to a video that is very interesting, very intriguing. I read the title and I'm like, I wonder how they did it. I wonder how Filipino-Americans became super rich. I mean, isn't that the dream? Becoming rich? Being financially independent? Yep, it is. So I want to find out how these young Filipino-Americans live their dream, the American dream. So please join me on this reaction video today, and without further ado, I think I'll just jump straight into it, right? So let's go.
When the U.S. Census Bureau released the American Community Survey in 2019, they found a very interesting feat among its median household income amongst its population. Filipino-Americans emerged to become the second highest earners amongst every Asian American race around the nation of the United States, registering incomes of about $100,000 US, a figure that almost doubles that of white Americans, whereas they had only $65,000 in median household income. The same data has shown that they are far ahead of all other races, whether they are Chinese American, Japanese American, and so on. They are only behind Indian Americans, which stand as the highest group in the study the U.S. Census Bureau had done so far. In all honesty, this has been quite a shocking figure. Filipinos, compared to other race groups, often come from nations with lower economic levels compared to their counterpart races with less access to better education. Yet they have strived to come out on top, to become such a figure among Asian Americans. So how could Filipino-Americans become such a leading figure in the world's richest nation? How did they even triumph over the largest population group, which is white Americans? Well,
that is very interesting.
We must first take a look back at history. What drove Filipinos to sail and fly towards the United States, and how they fought through difficulties to arrive at where they sit today. Around the 16th century, Asians, particularly Filipino sailors, emerged as the first ever Asians to have arrived and immigrated to the United States.
1600?
One that is to many quite shocking, as documents or historians alike tend to debate upon. Yet the oldest documentation found that these Filipinos had arrived around the October of 1587,
that's a fact that I didn't
and had
know.
an official permanent migration in 1763. This surpasses all other documentation of any other Asians having been found to arrive in North America. This wave of immigration, as they call it, had consistently then emerged since the official documentation that has been found. More so, however, the largest and most significant that enlarged the community of Filipinos in America had been done in the 20th century. This was the time when the Philippines was a territory of the United States, and Filipinos were not restricted from immigration to the U.S. as indicated by the Immigration Act of 1917. This initiative, done by the United States, had been seen as an opportunity, on the other hand, by Filipinos, as it was well thought out that they could earn far more and be able to provide better monetary means to their family back in the Philippines had they worked in the U.S. Hence, Filipino-Americans had grown in numbers, from having a tiny population of only 400 to over 5,600 in the 1920s. Then the coming decade saw its immigration rise to over 45,000. With such a wave of immigrants, the U.S. government had to slow down these numbers. By the 1960s, they had changed their policies with immigration reform, and after that, immigration had slowed, as only skilled professionals were, in most cases, allowed to go to the country. There had been, however, exceptions to this rule, as some Filipinos who had served in the Second World War were allowed to become U.S. citizens, which then further increased the Filipino-American population to greater heights, posing them as one of the largest Asian groups in the United States. Lastly, after these great immigration waves, there still stands one more, which is the current wave we are at. After the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which gave the option to have family reunification by providing visas to Filipinos or other groups to invite their families to the
I get
U.S.
it.
This wave enabled the Filipinos to become the largest source of legal immigrants to the United States from Asia. The majority of them were known to be Filipino nurses and had helped reduce the shortages in medical fields. This trend in Filipinos in the medical studies as immigrants would rise and become one of the most important factors to the U.S. as they would become one of the largest groups working in the field. Today, there are approximately 4.2 million Filipinos in the U.S.
Wow,
either through
4.2
their ancestry
million
or
Filipinos in
recent
the U.S.
immigrants. The majority of them today now are regarded
more than
as
my
skilled
home
people.
city.
This imposes the question we needed answers for. It is because around the 1930s to 1960s, with the immigration reform, the U.S. had only allowed skilled laborers. Hence, this helped push that selective groups of people who can actually perform for the United States country. Hence, one of the many reasons why Filipinos have become so rich is that they were selective people. Selective people who are amongst the top of the ladder in the Philippines population were doctors, nurses, engineers, and so on. This is one of the reasons why we presumably think that there had been a lack of professional people in the country, as they had left the mainland to seek better opportunities. For that matter, on the other hand, is an entirely different thing, as it is also noted that these immigrants had been one of the backbones of growth for the country of the Philippines, done through remittance, which has been averaging over $30 to $35 billion annually, which is around 10% of the total nominal gross domestic product of the Philippines.
That is
Further,
crazy.
Filipinos are known to be hooked into the medical field, commonly nurses. This is again one of the reasons why they are being paid so high, as medical professionals also on average in the US earn a lot more than any other profession. Another reason is that another population group had also influenced its overall income.
I wonder how much it is that they earn.
Immigrants. Army officers back in those days had given offspring to newly born Filipino-Americans who had emerged to follow the paths of their parents or grandparents and hence paved the way for Filipinos serving in the United States Army. Some of them bring their medical expertise with them, hence paving the way for a higher wage earning group. Finally, we also cannot disregard the fact that the first and foremost reasons why Filipinos arrived in the US. This is likewise as we presumably thought had occurred as well for Indian Americans, because they came to the world's largest economy to pursue better dreams and opportunities to help back their mainland, either that direct to their nation or their family. With such a higher purpose of living, unlike other Asian groups who may not need to do so as their family is well enough knit provided by their strong economies in Asia, Filipinos do not seem to have the same opportunity. But data might be segregated, as most of the reasons argued by historians are that they really are affected by these selective immigrants. Only those who have proper education have been allowed to enter, and more than likely their offspring were forced to pursue higher goals as their parents had. Filipino-Americans have truly, in many ways, given their status on the world stage as profound people, yet as we noted earlier, it has also become an issue back in their home country. The Philippines at times are even struggling as it battles out numerous shortages, one particular in the medical field. This has been a huge problem during the medical crisis over the past 2 years.
During the
as
pandemic,
data
it was a big
suggests, the
issue.
Philippines is the world's #1 outsourcing of medical professionals. So even after being a medical-rich country, there was nobody back home that was working to provide the nation a helping hand. Moreover, there are also more issues and problems, even probably huge losses of opportunities had the Philippines retained its top talents in the national lands. Having over 4.3 million people in the US alone can also mean that millions of talents are now gone, leaving the Philippines battling out its issues, such as the unemployment rate, which is seen as amongst the highest in Asia. The conversation about its remittance economy could be positive, but its negatives would more than likely outweigh whatever economy they provide back in the Philippines. After all, if they were capable people to become the second richest Asian American group in the US, they could have done more for their Philippines. Then again, however, it would also be
Yeah.
difficult to say had they stayed, as the nation lacks the proper infrastructure, proper education, and proper opportunities to provide for these dream-hungry people. So it would at most be very difficult, or
Super
even
difficult.
impossible, to imagine different scenarios had we wanted the other way around. What matters, however, is that the Philippines today is doing its best to lure back its overseas
That is
Filipino
true. A lot of
workers
people
by
are coming
providing
back.
incentives such as business capital loans and
Yeah.
more. One such is the BALIC Scientist Program, which entices technological, engineering, or science human capital to go back and help reverse the effect of brain drain, which has been one of the key issues the government has been trying to fix in recent years. With all that said and done, however, what do you think about Filipino-Americans? Let us know down below.
Interesting video from behind Asia. So I can definitely say, yeah, there have been some issues during the pandemic, of course. I also know that a lot of hospitals had to close or not accept any new patients because of lack of staff or beds or just in general resources. So yeah, there have been some issues. I'm happy to see that Filipinos who go abroad, or OFWs, overseas Filipino workers, have some opportunities to, just earn a decent living. But it always sounds so great, right? When you just think about the money, it sounds really amazing, but what a lot of people don't understand is that these people actually go overseas to work for many, many years to provide for the families back home, and it mainly goes without seeing the families, because every dollar they earn goes back home. And of course, paying for a flight back to the Philippines is also like a monthly income, I would say, and like all the expenses that you have to consider with it. So yeah, definitely sounds better than it is in some cases, but of course opportunities are a great thing, and I think there are a lot of opportunities in Europe and in the US and like in these first world countries where people can earn more and have the qualifications and have like, just pursue some sort of satisfaction in their business career. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you have anything to say to this video. Is there something that you learned? How much are nurses actually earning in the US? I have no idea, I haven't looked it up, so that would be an interesting factor. I also know that a lot of my viewers are nurses, so thank you so much for doing all the service in the past few years for us. I know it hasn't been easy, but you are highly, highly appreciated. Love you guys. I'll see you on the next video here on What's Up Philippines. Bye bye.